Josh Hill had been groomed for hard problems since second grade. Gifted magnet, top sections, 4 years of computer science, now drifting into quantum and AI. He wasn't indecisive, he was overqualified. Gaming tempted him, but world-scale puzzles called louder. They called themselves the Freak Squad, not a gang. Just nerds with bite. Rafi and Kenji debated compiler flags like sports. Priya broke CTFs for breakfast. Josh biked to Marianne's apartment 2 nights before Halloween. They ate takeout and watched the sunset glaze old courthouse square copper. "I'm hearing chatter," he said, pulling up encrypted forums. "Not kids' serious ops. Someone's trying to pull a coordinated blackout." Marianne tucked hair behind her ear. "Hackers? Could be, or something piggybacking on them. Sensors are weird." He showed her a map, rolling brownouts across the county, a pattern like a spreading stain. Priya pinged him. "Utility SCADA traffic is jittering, substation phasing off. What's the point of killing the power?" Marianne asked. "Sometimes you turn the lights off to see what else is in the room," he said, half joking. The Freak Squad planned to meet Halloween at 5 in the square. Music, booths, costumes. "Daylight," Josh said. "If a blackout comes, it'll be safe-ish." Kenji added a crate of headlamps and high CRI flashlights to the party list. Mateo and Omar promised a portable inverter and 2 lithium packs. Josh ran anomaly detection on area webcams. Bright scenes dipped a fraction even before sunset. Shadows thickened. He told himself it was dynamic range. He told himself a lot of things. Marianne squeezed his hand. "You always solve it, Josh." Halloween arrived crisp and clear. Vendors strung orange bunting between the palms. Kids chased bubbles through late sun. The Freak Squad arrived in pieces, trading hugs and gear like a pit crew. Theo wheeled in a drone case. Priya had a Pelican full of LED panels. "Feels like a boss fight," Jamal said, smiling too wide. "We don't know the boss yet," Josh said. "So we write the rules." Rule 1. Light good. Carry redundancy. Rule 2. Stay clustered. Single people wander, clusters survive. Rule 3. Observe, then act. No hero moves without data. Everyone nodded like they'd rehearsed it. At 4:58 p.m., the sun hovered, clean and unapologetic. At 4:59, a breeze turned the bunting into fish fins. At 5 o'clock exactly, the entire square clicked, like someone hit a switch. Not a flicker, a subtraction. Amplifiers died. Booths exhaled. Street lamps gave up on existing. The sudden silence made the fountains seem too loud. Then that stopped too. Sunlight should have been enough. Instead, shadows gloved the ground, deeper than the angle should allow. "Backpacks," Josh said, voice steady. "Lights on, tight formation." All around them, the dark felt present, not absence. A kid laughed, then swallowed the sound like he'd stepped off a curb he hadn't seen. Marianne gripped Josh's arm. "That wasn't just power." "No," Josh said, and didn't explain the graphs humming in his head. "Eyes up, not too up. Stay with me." The square held its breath, waiting for the mistake that would teach the first lesson. Josh hoped it wouldn't be theirs. Phones lit like minnows as the crowd tested screens. Every glow punched a little hole in the dark. And the dark flowed around it. "Headlamps," Priya snapped. Beams lanced out, clean and white. Where the light met ground, shadows flinched, not physics. Behavior. "Record this," Josh said. Theo launched the drone gimbal stabilized dual floodlights. From 50 feet, the square looked like spilled ink creeping against the angle of the sun. A vendor shouted for a generator. A pickup truck coughed. Its headlights cut a path and something thin and long retracted under the bench. "Did you see that?" Kenji whispered. "Contours," Josh said. "Edges. It rides the seam where light stops." They tested. Flashlight steady. Creatures hold. Flashlight sweep. Creatures recede. Crossing 2 beams caged a patch of ground. Nothing crossed that crossed light. Rule 4. Cross light traps them. Rule 5. Don't stand alone with one light. You cast a perfect border. A screen from the north trees snapped them around. A cluster had broken. One guy ran with a cell phone for a torch, and something ran with him, staying just out of glow. "Move!" Josh shouted, and the squad sprinted as a unit. He and Priya crossed beams over the runner's feet. The dark line snapped like a leash. They pulled him into their circle. "What was that?" The guy panted, eyes huge. "It touched my shoe. It was cold." "Stay with people," Marianne said. Don't stop moving. Where are cops? Jamal asked. Sirens wailed, then Dopplered away like they'd chosen another street. Dmitri pointed. A palm's shadow reached too far, licking into a tent like a tongue. Where it touched fabric, the canvas grayed, like memory fading. Back to back, Josh said. We rotate beams. They pulsed light like a heartbeat, hurting the darkness into the cracks. The drone's feed showed Old Courthouse Square encircled by a black ring, like a tide line. Beyond it, downtown dimmed as if the sun had been dialed down one notch. City grid's not the only thing that's down, Raffi said, scrolling a spectrum analyzer. Ambient lux is falling. Like, the day itself is dimmer. Hackers can't do that, Marianne said. No, Josh said. But something can arrive when humans make the room dark enough. People huddled, learning the primitive math of survival. Light creates borders. And borders shape who gets in and who stays out. Maker Lab, Priya said. 3 blocks. We have panels, inverters, tools. Josh nodded. We go now. Tight, crosslight all runners. Don't let anything ride our edges. They moved as a unit, a mobile lantern with 10 nervous hearts. The darkness flowed beside them like a river respecting banks. At the corner, a street mural's black paint rose in a ripple, then laid flat again. The city felt like it was remembering how to be night. They reached the lab's roll-up door locked, silent. Kenji's pick set flashed. The door rose, stuttering like a breath. Inside, Josh ordered. We build day. Behind them, Old Courthouse Square exhaled, and the palm shadows stood up. The night had decided to meet them halfway. The Maker Lab smelled like plywood, solder, and stubborn hope. Emergency strips cast a sick aquarium glow. Inventory, Priya snapped. Panels, inverters, LED arrays, Leaf FPO 4-packs. Stage lights, Mateo called, rolling a case of PAR cans. Borrowed from last month's concert. Theo landed the drone on a cutting mat. Its floodlights kept a shadowless island on the floor. Raffi and Omar yanked sawhorses into a barricade. Kenji plugged in a DC bus like it was 4. Josh sketched on the whiteboard, multi-angle light lattice over the square. Goal is no clean shadow inside the ring. We crisscross beams to starve the dark. Mobile units? Jamal asked. Wrist rigs, Marianne said, strapping LED bands she built in grad school. Pulse pattern randomized. UV? Dmitri offered. Might irritate whatever proteins it has if it has any. Try it, Josh said. But the behavior looks optical, not biological. They moved like a practiced raid team. Cables snaked. Generators hummed. Arrays fired and made honest shadows that stayed put. A terrified family pounded on the glass. The freak squad floodlit the vestibule and hauled them in. Stay in the bright, Marianne told a little boy, setting him on a rolling chair throne. Luis flicked on a stage light. Its cone cut the lab in clean geometry. The darkness hugged the corners, offended but patient. Josh watched a seam under the tool chest lengthen when he looked away. Eyes on the edges, he said. It grows when ignored. They prototyped a projector wall, 4 short throws casting shifting white noise patterns. Where the jitter hit, the dark couldn't grip. Rule 6. Random movement in light disrupts it. Rule 7. It learns the edges you give it. Squares filling with people, Theo said from the drone feed. Some are making circles with phone lights, others not moving. Phase 1, Josh said. We push a ring to the square and build a halo. Generators won't love this draw, Raffi warned. Then we move fast, Josh said. We're not winning a war. We're buying a night. They rolled out at 7:02 p.m., a convoy of rolling daybreak. Stage lights on dollies, projectors on carts, LED towers like lances. The street's darkness poured around them, offended by their geometry. A shadow tongue licked at Priya's boot. Her wrist rig pulsed. It snapped back. At the square, they set the first rigs on the fountain lip. Cones overlapped. Shadows broke into rags and blew away like smoke. Cheers went up, brittle and grateful. A kid cried quietly at the sight of his own honest shadow again. Marianne and Kenji anchored a quadrant. Omar and Luis chained inverters. Theo sent the drone to stitch a light map from above green where coverage held, red where night pooled. Left flank, Jamal called. It's pushing. The darkness piled under the palms, then split around a bench like water around stone. It adapts, Josh said. We adapt faster. He shoved a projector 2 inches. The red smear on Theo's map thinned. For 3 bright minutes, Old Courthouse Square looked alive. Then, 2 blocks over, the dark rose like a wave and rolled toward them. "Hold the halo," Josh ordered. "No gaps. No one stand alone." They made a small sun and dared night to blink. Night blinked. The first generator coughed, wheezed, and steadied. The second didn't. Its output sagged. Parkin blinked to half. "Swap pack," Raffi shouted. Luis sprinted, dragging cable. In that breath, the unlit wedge at the fountain lip thickened. A dark filament slithered up a toppled sign and reached for a vendor's ankle. Marianne's wrist rig strobed. The filament recoiled, but not far. "More movement," Theo called from the drone tablet. On the feed, Ali's vomited shadow like smoke poured underwater. Dimitri fired a UV panel. The dark shivered but held. "Minor effect," he said through his teeth. "Not a silver bullet." A man bolted from a cluster, sprinting for a side street. "Don't!" Josh yelled, but the dark ran with him like a cloak, and his scream clipped short. "Keep the circle!" Priya snapped, voice breaking only at the edges. A teenager clung to her elbow. "Miss, is it alive?" "It's opportunistic," she said. "Stay inside the light." The second generator died. Light cones sagged. Shadows found each other and braided into ropes. "Angle the projectors, no hard borders," Josh ordered. "We're making walls it can climb." They jittered the patterns. The ropes frayed, but a new tide rolled over their ankles. Something cold licked Josh's calf. No pain, just a hunger tasting. Marianne yanked him back into overlap and held him like she could staple him to daylight. "Square perimeter is gone," Theo said, voice small. "Downtown's almost off." From the north, a wave of dark crossed 3rd Street, drowning headlights into dull pebbles. "We fall back to the lab," Omar said. "Regroup on Main." Josh shook his head. "Civilians will die in that transit. The halo holds or it doesn't." The drone feed glitched, then flattened to black. Theo stared at his own reflection in the glass. It took the sky. A small boy wandered toward a gap. Jamal scooped him just as a long thin wedge speared the space his foot would have been. The crowd pressed in. Fear made them loud. Loud made them sloppy. "Quiet!" Josh shouted. "Listen to the edges. They tell you where it is." They listened and heard nothing, which was worse. Because silence meant it was everywhere the light wasn't. Priya's panel blew a fuse. She swapped it blind, hands steady by force. "Josh," she said, voice low. "We're losing this square." He looked at Marianne, dust on her cheek glowing in the projector haze. He looked at his friends, their silly team names suddenly a banner you could hold or die under. "Then we changed the board," he said. "Shadowless zone. Multiple angles. We erase shadows completely." "Can't erase all shadows," Dimitri muttered. Josh sketched with his hands. "You can minimize them so there's no clean edge to ride." "Where?" Kenji asked. "Courthouse steps. We move all lights there. Last stand." They ran their little son uphill, dragging wires like roots. The dark followed, curious and patient. On the steps, they built a crude light dome projectors jittering, stage lights overlapping, wrist rigs pulsing. Inside it, shadows thinned to blur. The dark paced the perimeter, frustrated. The crowd constricted inside the ring, all breaths, one breath. For a minute the dome held. Then the mains far away hiccuped, and the entire city made a sound like a whale turning. The dome lights flickered once. Every person, every cart, every statue cast a new, tiny, honest shadow. And the dark smiled. It took the dark exactly 1 heartbeat to understand the new geometry. It didn't attack the ring. It rose from under our feet from our own shadows. 100 small darknesses bulged, slick as breath on glass. Where shoe shadows met stone, thin hands flattened and pushed up. "Eyes on the floor!" Josh yelled. "Stomp the shadows, break the edges!" They shuffled, scuffed, blurred their feet like they were dancing ugly. A child screamed as his hand shadow reached up to lace fingers with his real one. Jamal kicked the projector. Its pattern smeared across the stone. The hand collapsed to ink. "Keep the jitter!" Priya cried. "No steady cones." The dome became a strobe of salvation and nausea. Marianne's shadow split around her ankles, trying to decide where she ended. She tightened her grip on Josh. "Don't let go." Raffi's generator coughed blood noise and died. Half the dome collapsed. The crowd surged. Edges formed everywhere. Back up, Pack, Louise yelled, tripping over cable. A rope of dark snapped around his shin. Mateo and Omar dragged him into a three-beam crossing until it let go. Theo's face glowed ghostly in his tablet as he killed the drone feed and used it as a white page light. Dimitri aimed UV at pooling knees, small flinches, small wins. From outside the dome, downtown wasn't gone, just absorbed. Street after street went matte, color drained to charcoal, like the city had decided to be a drawing. Josh, Priya said, a scientist even now, we built a light that makes shadows, it's using us. He saw it then, not as defeat but as truth. Light didn't equal safety, edges equal danger. Their beautiful dome made 100 edges. Kill the fixed lights, he said, voice cutting clean. Wrist rigs only, randomized, we move together. No object casting hard edges. Suicide, Omar muttered, but his hand was already on a switch. Stage lights died, projectors blinked out. The dome became a constellation of moving points. The dark hesitated, losing purchase. The hands flattened, testing for a border that kept moving. Out through the west steps, Josh said. Makerspace. Regroup. They flowed as one organism, messy and alive. At the bottom step, Marianne gasped. Her shadow was gone. Josh looked down, his was there, jittered and little. Marianne's boots touched stone and made no shadow at all. She smiled, small and tired. I stood in the projector longer than you. The air around her ankles dimpled, as if the dark were tasting nothing and finding hunger anyway. Stay in my light, Josh said, dragging his wrist beam to cover both. For 6 steps, it worked. On the 7th, all the wrist rigs in the dome flickered once like a synchronized blink. A hum rose from the courthouse stones. The city made the whale-turning sound again. In that breath, every light source watch face, phone status LED, emergency EXIT cast one perfectly honest, perfectly sharp shadow. The dark didn't rise as hands this time. It rose as people, standing up from the places they should not be, silhouette versions of the crowd, detail less, decisive. One shadow Josh stood in front of Josh. It didn't move. It just existed where he would be if all he was were outline. Around the ring, silhouette Rafi, Kenji, Priya, Jamal, all of them, waiting in the wrong places. Don't engage, Josh said, voice paper thin. Keep moving. The silhouettes turned not heads, but all at once, like pages flipping. They faced the courthouse doors. The doors opened without hands. Inside was not the lobby. Inside was a deep well of matte. Underneath, Theo whispered. We live underneath. Marianne took Josh's hand. We don't belong in there. The city lights, wherever they still were, dimmed a fraction. In the silence, the square felt like a camera waiting for someone to choose UV stop. Back, Josh said, calm now, decision made. Back to the lab. They stepped, 1, 2. The silhouettes stayed facing the well. Then, in perfect unison, they stepped into it and vanished like cutscenes. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then a small sound, a coin rolling, a marble settling echoed up from nowhere. Marianne squeezed Josh's fingers hard enough to hurt. Tell me this ends, she said. We keep building day, Josh said, throat dry. Even if night is smarter. He didn't look up, he didn't have to. Because in the reflection of the courthouse windows, even black, even blind, you could see the sun go the smallest bit dimmer, like a hand passing under it. And all around the square, where their feet had been, the last flat shadows breathed in, out learning to stand.